He's right, I'm a hot mess. You know, there's something that happens. I did work on this, and I did write it, and I did edit it, and I ran a rough draft, and I edited it again, and I got it ready, and I went to print it, and my printer froze. This is the second time this has happened to me when I speak. It does really disturb me because I don't feel prepared. So I need a prayer. I always pray before I speak because this isn't my shining moment, in case you haven't realized it. So would you please join me in a little prayer? Divine Light, creator of all it is, God, I trust you've got this. I know there wasn't great satisfaction with the pages that didn't print. And I know that I've edited it several times and I've prayed about it. Now I have to trust. So I surrender. Guide my words and help me to convey what you would like us to know. Amen. You know, we talk about giving thanks every Sunday morning and every Thanksgiving holiday, all the things we have to be thankful for. I talk about gratitude all the time, probably because it was one of the greatest lessons and a humbling lesson I needed to learn. It's deeply personal. When I was in grade school, we celebrated holidays. We even made gratitude chains that ran up and down the hallways. We were each given, a strip of paper that was about 2 inches by 6 inches, and we were expected to write something we were thankful for, and then they pasted them together and made those chains, and they just went all through the school. Maybe this is the reason I'm so fond of the fall season, because those chains united everybody. Everyone seemed to be happier and more open to sharing. Maybe because the weather was getting cooler and we were spending more time together inside, but maybe it also had something to do with the conscious focus on the things that we had to be thankful for. It was a time of finding blessings in our lives and acknowledging those things, and a focus on others as the holiday season approached. When I reached middle school, confirmation began. My mother insisted that we go through training. My father backed her up, as he always did. And so we had 3 years of lessons focused on spiritual development and understanding. Much of the focus was on the commandments, the 10 Commandments, the stories of the Bible, and the teachings of Jesus as he traveled his life on earth. I have to say that confirmation wasn't exceedingly stimulating for me. Weekly, we were giving passages from Scripture to read and reflect on and discuss during our Wednesday afternoon class. Now, that's probably the only thing I really thought was worthwhile. I particularly remember the week we were instructed to reflect on a passage in 1 Thessalonians. In all things, give thanks. Now, it wasn't uncommon for these topics to come up for family discussion around our Tuesday evening dinner table. This Tuesday was no exception. It just so happened that the prior week, a man my father worked with lost his wife. I remember this vividly. She was the mother to his 4 sons and an infant daughter. She had breast cancer. We knew this family and the kids well. It was a surprise when she was diagnosed, and especially frightening how quickly it took her life. I didn't really understand. This was my first time I personally knew someone who had cancer, or at least was aware of it. The loss of a young mother made me feel very, very vulnerable. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to lose my mother. Even more unthinkable was giving thanks for such a thing. In that moment, I knew for sure, there was no giving thanks for something like this. I had no trouble expressing my opinions and fully supporting them, tears and all. Dinner was kind of a chaos that day. As always, my parents exchanged their knowing looks, and my father calmly stepped into the topic, never missing a beat, as he had buttered his bread, by asking a few questions for consideration before I was allowed to proceed. You know, she was very sick and experiencing great pain. She was suffering. Don't you think it would be hard to watch somebody you love suffer? My mother softly added, "This was only going to get worse, you know." These were things I had not considered. My father chimed in, "Have you considered what the past few months have been like for that family?" My mother gently added, "There are some things worse than death, you know." Something else I had not considered. The conversation continued, and I was introduced to the idea that there is meaning and opportunity for growth in all life's events. Something good can come from all challenges if you're open to receiving. There is a gift to be found, even if it meant letting someone you love go so you don't suffer. I faced that challenge in my own life. The night the plane went down that my husband was on and crashed and burst into flames, we knew there were no survivors. But it took a little while to find that out. When we first heard the plane had crashed, my son, who was at work, called me. And he said, "Mom," he said, "what's the worst that can happen here?" And I said, "The worst? That your dad survives this and is disabled in some way where he can't function and he suffers in pain. You know how awful he would feel about spending his life in a wheelchair or bed." I said, "That would be a living hell for him. And if we love him, we need to be gracious in letting him go." Then we heard very shortly after that there was an ongoing fire and it would be going for a long time, and we knew there were no survivors. Now, that direct thing came from the night I was talking to my parents and my dad's statement about the suffering. There was suddenly a gift that I had to share with somebody I cared about. Well, that was a long time ago. And I've had some other challenges of my own, as I'm certain you all have. Nobody here hasn't faced challenge. It isn't always easy to find the gift in an experience, especially if your heart's broken. You have been deeply embarrassed. You failed at something that seems very important. You've been deeply, or you have deeply hurt another. Made a mistake that costs not only you but others who are innocent, or you have suffered deeply by another's misdeed, not to mention betrayals. The list can go on and on. Over time, many personal mistakes, losses, heartaches, and challenges, not only my own, but those of others as well. We have a choice. We can learn. And we don't have to just learn it the hard way by going through it ourselves. If we cautiously listen to other people's stories and let them share openly without judgment, we have an opportunity to learn from their mistakes or their challenges, so we don't have to walk that path. I've come to realize that there is truly a gift in all things, but it may require that we face fear, search for it, work for it, wait for it, and be willing to accept it when it comes. Those gifts can be hard-earned. Sometimes they're very hard to find also, but well worth looking for, because when you find them, you may also find a pot of gold, because you may find many gifts. I've learned a few things about gift hunting. That's what I call it, finding the gift when you are having a problem. I call it gift hunting. Now, it's not always so joyful sometimes. First of all, I want y'all to remember, everyone and everything around you is your teacher. Remember, your friends have stories you can grow from. This is the University of Earth. I personally believe this is the Harvard of the universe. So keep in mind, if you fail the class, you get to repeat it. Note to self. Try to get it right the first time. Learn it from somebody else. Avoid going through it if at all possible a second time. Also, don't forget, if you are here in this place at this time, you were chosen. You are special. You are capable, and you are important. You have a purpose, and there is a purpose for all that comes to you, whether you like it or not. Here are a few reflections I've picked up along the way. Trials are lessons that you failed to learn, presented once again. So where you made a flawed choice before, you can make another choice, a different choice, a better choice the second time around, and avoid the difficulty that your prior choice brought you. Maybe somebody else can learn from your experience too. You know, I've learned from movies too, and other people's stories, Book of Virtues. There's a lot of things. How many of you seen the movie The Natural with Glenn Close and Robert Redford? Well, there's some of you. Robert Redford plays a baseball player who, in his youth, was exceptional. He had a rare talent. He was named Roy Hobbs. And he had a girlfriend, Glenn Close. All he wanted to do was play baseball. And he got recruited. And he was called up, and he was going to play in the pros, he thought. Something happened, and he disappeared. And I don't want to ruin the movie for you. I just want you to know that 16 years later, he appears on the scene again, trying. Now that's old for a baseball player. But he was exceptionally talented. And he led his team to a winning streak. But again, he was challenged. He was in a slump. And there was promise that was coming, and there was a lot at stake, like there usually is. And Glenn Close realizes that he is playing, and she goes to the game. And she sees that he's in a slump. She knows he is. And she stands up in the stands, and he sees her. And there was something in him that touched his soul. And he began hitting again. Now their story unfolds, but they start sharing what happened to them in the time that they'd been apart. Now note, he had proposed to her before he left when he was a young man. You need to know he was slow getting back into the game, and it didn't look like there was promise, and he was struggling, and there were challenges. But he was still moving forward. One of his challenges from his youth revisited him just as they are getting to the pivotal game. And he's in the hospital, and Glenn Close goes to visit him. And she looks at him and she said, I believe we have two lives. We have one we learn from and one we live with afterwards. That phrase stuck with me all these years. And then I thought, I better look that up, because that was the premise of this particular sermon. So I had to buy the movie, probably have it in the basement, someplace with no DVD player, but I watched it again. And I watched that part of the movie maybe 4 times. Now, it was just 2 phrases, but they were profound in their impact that held with me. And what I realized is, as I watched this again, I thought, there's more to this than I realized. Because if you have regrets, what would have happened? He lived for 16 years trying to get back in the game. And he let other things come between him and the game. But he loved it, and he needed that chance. But he was also living with regrets. Well, I've learned one thing about lessons. Regrets can hold you back, and can prevent the most wonderful things from taking place in your life. So don't wallow in your suffering. Grow through it. Don't just go through it. Acknowledge there could be a gift even in something just awful. Find it. Celebrate it. Lean into your faith. Pray for it. Remember, ask and it'll be given. Seek and you will find. Knock and it'll be open. Lean into your faith. According to Samuel Smiles, we learn wisdom from failure much more than from success. We often discover what we'll do by finding out what will not do. So it's like maybe something doesn't work, so we figure out what does work. And probably a person who never made a mistake, never made a discovery. Science is full of those. Treat life's challenges like stepping stones to a deeper understanding and a more evolved being. You have a job to do. There is a reason for all experience. What can you learn from what life brings to you? Remember, there is always the good, the bad, and the ugly. Another thing I learned is never give up hope. Dorothy Miller Cole puts it this way: as the spring returns, regardless of time or man, so is hope. Sometimes, but a tiny bud that has to push up through the hard shell of circumstance to reach the light of accomplishment. Do not give up hope. Some gifts are not only hard to find, but we may need to wait for them, for their season to emerge. They may not come instantly. They may come with other things. And above all, guys, stop looking for a scapegoat in your life. But be willing to face the truth within yourself. Be willing to accept your part in a situation, how you might have handled something different. Maybe you inadvertently set things in motion that you never intended. Look at your actions. Because there's great power in knowing your actions. Because if you accept responsibility for something, you have control in changing it. You can be the instrument of change. Prayers are answered. Edgar Casey taught that there is purpose in every experience and encouraged people to find something to praise in all situations and people. He frequently linked a life of kindness, gratitude, and a positive attitude to attracting abundance and personal growth. Make a conscious effort to see the good in everything. Helps create gratitude. Connect the gratitude connection to a universal energy of God. Casey also believed that life is a school. I'm not alone. For the soul, and every circumstance, no matter how challenging, holds a hidden purpose or a gift that can lead to spiritual growth if approached with the right attitude, and an ideal of service and a focus on kindness and love. I really enjoy Ralph Waldo Emerson because sometimes he has things that just vibrate for you. This is one. The measure of mental health is the disposition to find good everywhere. Rejoice and give thanks for the good you see around you. Remember, there are gifts in the good, the bad, and the ugly. Find them and give thanks. Find that purpose, and you will find the gift, and then be thankful. For this way we grow. Those gifts we often have to hunt for, but they're worth finding because they can be a pot of gold that guides you through your future, that helps you through every challenge that life brings. So today, and as we approach Thanksgiving, remember there is so much more to this holiday. It is so much deeper. You don't have to go running around telling everybody about your woes and how you found your gift. You just need to embrace your gift and give thanks. Remember, like attracts life. Whatever the conscious mind thinks and believes, the subconscious identically creates. Remember, we create our own reality with our thoughts. So accept our gifts. Know you are well taken care of, and the divine resides within you, always accessible to touch your heart and heal your woes. Thank you.